Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Steel City Blitz Steelers Podcast presented by Deck Roofing Incorporated. This is a very late night and special podcast that we're throwing together for you. The second day, rounds 2 and 3 of the NFL draft have just concluded, and the Steelers had selections at 49 and 102, and we thought we'd get together and give you our thoughts on those two selections, as well as any other quick takes from the draft. And then, of course, we'll have a full draft recap coming up early next week. I guess I should just also mention that, it is after midnight here in the East and quite early in the West, but that has not stopped anyone from having adult libations. So we probably should just go ahead and click the adult theme on this one, but we'll see. Okay, here's what we're going to do, because I know you're both chomping at the bit, and I got to pick one of you to start with. So what I'm going to say, I'm just going to say the name of our draft pick at 49 and just immediately blurt out what comes in your head. Is it fair enough?
Wait, both of us?
Yes. But one
that doesn't
word.
Make any sense?
Yes, it does. One word, just blurt it out.
Oh, one word?
2 words?
I need 2 words. One of them starts with F.
2? Oh, come on. All right, I'll go with 2 words. 2 words. All right, here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, 49th selection in the 2020 draft, selected wide receiver out of Notre Dame, Chase Claypool.
Athletic freak.
Fucking bully. I love it.
All right.
One of mine started with F too. It was just a different word.
Okay, so Claypool checks in at about 6'4 plus. He's about 220 plus. He runs a 4.
Try 238.
238.
His combine measurements was 6'4 1/4, 238. And he ran a 4.42. So just to compare that, Martavis Bryant was 6'3 3/4. So Claypool's a half inch taller. Martavis Bryant was 211 pounds at the combine. So Claypool's about 28 pounds heavier. And Martavis Bryant ran the exact same 4.42 40-yard dash. So Claypool is taller and bigger and just as fast as Martavis Bryant.
So I've already had this from 3 people tonight, and I haven't even checked my inbox yet. But they're already suggesting to me that he's going to be a tight end. I know he's not. I don't think he is.
No, people think that because of the weight.
If he's a tight end, he'll be a move tight end. He'll be, and I've made I made a comparison in poor taste on Twitter earlier, and I compared him to Aaron Hernandez. And he plays a lot like him. He's just a straight up bully. He doesn't gain a lot of separation. He just boxes out the corner, bashes him out of the way with his hip, and takes down the ball, and then shoves him to the ground and keeps running. And there's somebody else I was talking to on Twitter tonight, Paul. Hi, Paul. Compared him to Calvin Johnson. Now, I think that's a little bit of hyperbole, but Johnson, 6'5", 239.
God, he was that big, wasn't
taller.
he?
1 inch taller.
He ran a 4.35 at 239. He was a little taller. He had a 1.52 10-yard split. The 10-yard split for Claypool is a little. I think it's 1.56.
1.56. Yeah.
Yeah. Vertical 42.5 for Johnson, 40.5 for Claypool. Yeah. So very similar in terms of that.
Right.
There's no 3-cone really to compare these two with. That would be nice, because I don't think he's got Johnson's lateral ability. No, I don't think he has Johnson's hands, frankly. But freak athlete, as Ian pointed out, and that's the reason I'm going down this road. I mean, basically, he is a freak athlete. Size, strength, speed, specimen. And, man, you watch his tape, the guy is just a straight-up bully. I'm not even sure he tries, that he works real hard to get separation. If they
It's
teach him to
almost
run
he
routes,
almost likes it. He almost likes
he likes contact. If they teach him to run routes, man,
and that was a big part of why he dropped. I mean, all those physical tools, you would think maybe a little bit higher than that in the draft, but it was the route running. My understanding is he's just not a very crisp route runner or anything like that.
He also had to suffer through some dreadful quarterback play at Notre Dame too.
That's a good point. Right. That's fair. That's fair.
It's Notre Dame. I mean, you're not going to get like the best athletes in the world like they used to like 40 years ago. They just they don't let those guys into that school. You know?
Is it? Yeah. No,
I let good quarterbacks in though. I mean,
they do. They do.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that
what good quarterbacks?
No, I'm saying they could recruit good quarterbacks, but I don't know. I watched a lot of Notre Dame's offense both last year and this year with because Miles Boykin was on our radar last year, which actually this was something that we talked about before on the podcast was that given that there wasn't pro days this year, were the Steelers going to kind of fall back on, schools that they had attended pro days with before, had good working relationships with, and absolutely they've attended. Kevin Colbert went to Notre Dame's pro day last year. There was a lot of talk about either the cornerback, I don't remember his name, or Miles Boykin, who wound up going to Baltimore. Julian Love, right. Yeah. I mean, they've scouted Notre Dame fairly heavily for a while now and have a pretty good working relationship with Kelly, their head coach. So I'm not surprised to see them take someone from Notre Dame.
Is it fair to say that what happened tonight is that the Steelers found themselves, and I think they had him targeted. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to suggest they didn't. But there was such a run on receivers, both in the first round and at the top of the second round. They knew there was no way in hell he was going to be there at 102. So do you think that's probably why they took him at 49?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
I don't. I disagree, and here's why. And I'm sorry to cut you off mid-sentence, Ian.
That's fine.
I think they wanted a wide receiver in the second, or perhaps a running back. And the running backs they were interested in went earlier, and so it was down to a pool of wide receivers. They were looking for an offensive playmaker, and bear in mind that there were wide receivers that went after he did. Van Jefferson,
Mims did.
Mims. Yeah. There were a number of receivers that went after he did in the second and third round, and there's no way in hell they would have gotten him at 102. But there was no expectation that they would have gotten him at 102 anyway.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
I really thought that's
mostly what I was agreeing with was that he definitely wouldn't have been there at 102. And we talked about that on the podcast with Lloyd Cushenberry from LSU, the center, that, I said I didn't know if I wanted him in the second. And Ben rightly said to me last week, he said, well, if you like him in the third, you're not picking till 102 at the very end of the third. So if you like him there, you got to take him in the second. And I think, something – I don't know what kind of grade they had on Claypool, but, if you like the guy and you want him, you don't have a pick for another 50 players. So you got to take him where you get him.
Ben, did you think that if either Edwards-Helaire or Jonathan Taylor was there, do you think they would have been the pick?
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were looking for an explosive. They were looking for an explosive skill player on offense who would score touchdowns. What I wanted them to do was take a lineman, but they don't call me and ask me my opinion. So
fancy that.
I am happy with the pick. I'm not disappointed at all. This guy scored 13 touchdowns last season on 66 receptions.
It's a good ratio.
Yeah, it's a damn good ratio. I mean, basically that's what he does inside the red zone. And he just grabs the ball and then bullies his way into the end zone. Good luck trying to tackle him, DBs.
Hell of a blocker too.
Yeah. Well, like we were talking about, he loves contact.
He does. Yeah.
And that's a wonderful thing to have as a wide receiver, I should say.
Well, so I think overall, I think we like this pick. It's so hard. I never people will ask me and you and all of you guys for the next 2-3 weeks. Well, how do you think the Steelers did in the draft? And I have the same answer all the time. I say, well, ask me in a couple of years, because I might like these picks. I might not like these picks, but it doesn't matter because you got to give them time to see what they can do when they actually get on the field. So,
I learned that lesson when they drafted Senquez Golson. He really liked that pick a lot, and
I loved that pick. In the third round at 102, guys, they go with an outside guy, an edge rusher from the football metropolis known as Charlotte, and his name is Alex Highsmith. Was a walk-on there and busted his tail and put up some pretty impressive numbers. Ian, what was your overall first reaction? And then now that you've had time to process, where are you at with that selection?
So I think your phrase of busting his tail is pretty accurate for the way the dude plays. He wasn't extremely on my radar. He didn't check all the boxes for early impact pass rusher or anything like that. He's a little bit undersized still. He's 6'3", which is good, but he's 248. Usually the threshold you want to look for is around 250. So he's close. But he can put some weight on his frame. I think he needs to get stronger at the point of attack, but I mean, he's got a relentless motor. And I mean, you saw, if you were watching on TV, how excited he was to come play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, he's the kind of guy that can fit really well in a 3-4 defense as an outside linebacker. He's got some good short area quickness, and he's got a motor that just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And my gut feeling on this dude is, if nothing else, he's going to be a monster on special teams because he just seems like a guy that looks for the ball and wants to get guys on the ground.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. He's very fun to watch. Ben, obviously he's got to put some weight on. I think we all agree that.
I don't have any qualms really with his size at all. I think given his frame at 6'3", 250 is about right. I don't even think TJ weighs 250.
But my question was going to be, though, because they seem to, and I know Charlotte used him in this manner, they did kick him down once in a while, and where he would get down in the dirt. Do you see the Steelers doing that with him at all, or do you think he's going to be just
he'll be straight up edge player, strictly an edge player, and obviously will make his bones, so to speak, playing special teams for a year or two.
Oh yeah.
And that's good. It's what he should be doing. He should be running down the field, making tackles. I don't love the pick, but I don't think that the board in the third round was very kind to the Steelers.
It wasn't at all. Spot on. I totally agree.
I thought that the Patriots were going to jump in front of them and take somebody that they wanted, but they didn't. They grabbed a tight end, which the Steelers weren't going to draft.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was about. Just finding a dance partner so you could move up, I guess. You could grab the tight end you want because somebody behind the Steelers you thought was going to grab him. This guy is a developmental guy. He's probably a better athlete than Chicolo was.
Yes, I would agree with
he's
that.
Absolutely a better athlete.
Yeah. He's long-armed for 6'3". He's got long arms. Chicolo wasn't a bad athlete. He had a really good burst. This guy is going to, he'll bust his ass, and he wants to be a Steeler, and it's all well and good. I'm fine with his size. Garrett Guimont, who is the strength and conditioning coach for the Steelers, gets those guys in there, and he does an evaluation, and then he gives a recommendation to the team about what weight he wants that player at. For example, when Bud came in, he was 270, and they've got him down to 255.
Yeah.
That's just an example. Like I said, I don't think TJ weighs more than 245 tops. And this kid's about 250. Yeah. So, I don't have any issue with where he's at right now. I think his 3-cone, when you look at that, is a little suspect. It's not a very good time. So I'm not imagining that his bend is all that great. Let's just hope he can convert speed to power and be that guy on the edge who drives tackles back. The other thing to consider is he's a redshirt senior, so he's a fifth-year guy, right?
Yeah.
He'll be 23 in August. He's not a kid, and generally speaking, those guys that come out when they're a little older have got a little bit lower ceiling than, your 20 years old and your 21-year-old who comes out, and like a Juju who comes out and he's 20.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys have got a real high ceiling, and that's why teams like them. So we'll see on this one. I'm not ready to endorse it yet, but I think that he was the pick because he was a fallback, and they had him on their. I had a fourth round on him. I didn't think he would go in the third.
I was fourth or fifth. Yeah.
If they had waited until their next pick, they wouldn't have gotten him. And so they said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab this guy now. The board hasn't been real kind to us. The guys we liked were gone. This guy is still here. He will not be there in the fourth round tomorrow when we pick at 17. Let's go ahead and grab him.
Yeah, I think that's what it came down to as well. Ian, who were a couple other guys that you thought were possible there?
I was really looking at offensive linemen. I really liked Cushenberry from LSU, obviously. But
he was gone.
He was gone.
Right.
Yeah. The other guy I was looking at was Tyler Biadasz from Wisconsin, which I don't think he went. I don't know. I turned it off after we picked, so I don't know if he went in the last couple picks or not. What about Ben Barch? I saw his name thrown around a little bit. The kid from St. John's, right?
Small school, but
yeah. So just a couple quick follow-up thoughts on what Ben said. TJ was 252 coming out at 6'4", so he was a little bit taller as well. Chickalo was also just a shade over 6'3", but weighed 267 coming out. And if you remember when Chickalo came out, the discussion on him was, does he need to add weight to kind of be a 5-tech 3-4 end, or does he need to drop a bunch of weight to become an outside guy?
Yeah. I thought it was hilarious that they were considering him for 5-tech, given the length of his arms.
Right. Oh, yeah. It never would have worked. So he dropped the weight and became an outside linebacker.
The thing about Chickalo, and I just going back to this, he was 290 when he played in college, and he'd already dropped a bunch of weight before the combine and was still dropping weight before the draft. And when the Steelers got him in, they were like, "Yeah, we need you to drop another 10," and he was already down to 255 at that point. So I realize these guys are all puffed up for the combine, and a lot of them try to be, and that's why a lot of these guys have diluted samples at the draft as they go and they weigh in, and then they're like, "Yeah, come over here now and pee." And they're like, "Well, I just drank 4 gallons of water so I could be as heavy as possible when I weighed in, and now you're going to have me." All right, well.
Did he sign with anybody?
Chickalo? No, not yet.
Yeah, I didn't think he did either. Before we wrap up our little special edition here, tomorrow, the Steelers will have 2 fourth-round selections, nothing in the 5th, and then they'll have one in the 6th and one in the 7th. Ian, you mentioned offensive line. What else do you see perhaps tomorrow?
I would say, other than offensive line, obviously you're looking at an interior guy, probably like a guard or a center if there is one. Running back, they still need more depth there. On defense, they still need depth at inside linebacker, need depth at safety. I'd recommend people go back and listen to our podcast previewing the defense, because we did talk a lot about depth needs there with potentially hybrid guys. The one guy I really liked, Tanner Muse out of Clemson, went in the 3rd round, which was insane to Oakland. That is a vast reach on him. I mean, I had him.
Yeah, Oakland reaches a lot, though, don't they? I mean,
especially for Clemson guys.
No, Oakland really reaches a lot. That seems to be like the theme with those two guys right now, is that they reach. They see a guy they really like, and they take him. Doesn't matter where. And it's just like, okay, you could have gotten the guy in the next round, but all right, whatever you guys want to do. Ian, real quickly, the 4 guys that were taken after the Steelers pick: Devlon Taylor, linebacker from Colorado; Terrell Burgess, safety from Utah. Burgess
was good, yeah.
Adam Troutman, taken to 105, the tight end from Dayton. Yeah. That guy's got a lot of potential. Potential. The French word for hasn't done anything yet.
It's fitting he goes to New Orleans then.
Tyree Phillips went to the Ratbirds with the last pick in the third round. He's a guard.
Okay. I think
so Mr. Badass or
had a great
Biadasz,
draft,
or how do you say his name?
Biadasz.
Yeah.
Biadasz. Badass is still on the board. So
yeah,
the Steelers,
Steelers
could take him potentially tomorrow.
I think interior offense, defense, maybe. I think definitely running back, like you said, Ian, and linebacker, safety. Who knows? I mean, the way this thing is unfolding is just bizarre. Some of the guys that have gone off the board, and there's, the good news is there's still about 10 or 12 guys with cameras in their living rooms that haven't been selected yet.
So we quarterbacks that are pissed.
Oh my!
Jacob Eason, Jake Fromm, those guys look happy, don't they?
Did anybody else happen to notice that Jacob Eason's girlfriend kept getting further and further from him as the evening went on?
Well, he was probably getting a little moody.
I can imagine.
And on that note, since we're talking about quarterbacks, I am so fucking glad that Jalen Hurts went off the board.
Oh, yeah.
Now Steelers fans can shut up. Knock it off.
Yeah.
They're not taking a quarterback this year. Give it up.
Yeah.
God. If they do take a quarterback, it's to upgrade Duck.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Meaning 6th or 7th round. Yeah.
I don't even think they're going to do that.
Well,
they got
priority
4 quarterbacks.
No,
They've got 4 quarterbacks right now. I don't think they need another one.
No, I don't either.
I don't see it.
No. Well, okay, so we've covered those things, and we'll look ahead to tomorrow and day 3 and the final rounds of the draft and see what the Steelers do. Just a reminder that we are sponsored by Deck Roofing Incorporated of South Florida, serving Broward County and the southern Palm Beach counties. Whether you need commercial, residential, multifamily, or condos, contact Deck Roofing today by visiting deckroofing.com. I think that'll do it, guys. Anything else?
No, the one other thing I'll add is, we talked a lot on previous shows about how they didn't have a guy on offense who could take the top off the coverage or score anytime he touched the ball. And I mean, Claypool's long speed is that guy. I mean, safeties are going to have to respect him. Even if he only plays a handful of snaps, you throw him out there, and even if they know he's running 9 routes down the field, they're still going to have to hang a safety over him. And that'll open a lot of things up underneath for other guys too. Highsmith, probably just a special teamer the first year, sit on the bench behind Dupree and Watt. But if Dupree signed his franchise tender, but if he doesn't re-sign to anything long-term, potentially could be a starter next year if he plays his cards right. So, I mean, honestly, special teamer for this year,
the guy who won tonight, the guy who won tonight was Bud Dupree. The guy who won the draft tonight was Bud Dupree, because they didn't get a guy, in my opinion, that can replace Bud Dupree in 2021.
Gives him a little leverage.
Gives him a lot of leverage.
Yeah. Well, and they still have until July 15th to come to a long-term deal.
Yep. I am really glad, though. I got to give Bud props, as long as we're talking about this, for going ahead and signing his deal. He basically said, I'm not skipping anything.
Yeah.
I will be there. I'm going to work. I want to be part of this team. I'm not going to hold out.
Right.
Got to give him props.
No, I do as well. And we'll wrap it up right there. But we'll be back early next week. And also have an interview with a former Steeler coming up next week as well. But I won't say anything any more than that. Let's just say that. But
Jeff Hardings. Sorry.
Offensive linemen make the best interviews.
They do. Although I think the folks will be just fine with this one. All right. For
Casey Hampton.
For the gruesome twosome here. This is Steel Dad signing off on the Steel City Blitz Steelers podcast, presented by Deck Roofing Inc., if you will. And hey, go Steelers.
Fuck the Ravens.
Suck.